Unemployment improved a bit last month, but it's still nearly 9%. And the trouble is, job creation is so slow, it will be years before we get back the 7.5 million jobs lost in the Great Recession. American families have been falling out of the middle class in record numbers. The combination of lost jobs and millions of foreclosures means a lot of folks are homeless and hungry for the first time in their lives. One of the consequences of the recession that you don't hear much about is the record number of children descending into poverty. The government considers a family of four to be impoverished if they take in less than $22,000 a year. Based on that standard and government projections of unemployment, it is estimated the poverty rate for kids in this country will soon hit 25%. Those children would be the largest American generation to be raised in hard times since the Great Depression.
Who can tell me what it's like to feel hungry?
It's like hard, you can't sleep, you just like wait, you just go to sleep for like 5 minutes and you wake up again and your like stomach hurts and you're thinking, I can't sleep, I'm going to try and sleep, but you can't because like your stomach's hurting and it's because it doesn't have any food in it.
And it's like a black hole. And sometimes when I don't eat, my stomach, you can hear like it's like growling, you can hear it.
Usually we eat macaroni or we drink water or tea.
My mom will sometimes like make food and then she won't have enough, so at night we'll just eat cereal or something. Other times my parents will fight about money because they don't have enough money to pay the food.
We have to sometimes take food from a church. It's hard because my grandmother's also out of work and we usually get some food from her.
It's kind of embarrassing because the next day you go to school asking kids if they want this or if they want that. If they have cereal and they haven't opened it yet, you go ask them if they want their cereal.
In a new report today, the government says 44 million Americans now live in poverty. 4 million joined the list just last year. And that means 1 out of every 7 people we pass on the street could be struggling for basic needs like food. David Muir has been looking at what these numbers really mean. David.
Diane, 1 in 7, it really is something. These new numbers offer a stunning portrait of just how many American families struggling to hold on to their place within the middle class have watched as that spot has now slipped from their reach.
It is the largest number of Americans living in poverty since they began keeping track 50 years ago, an increase of 4 million in just 1 year.
People who used to be solidly middle class, who are now looking over that cliff into the abyss.
The government puts the poverty line at just under $22,000 a year for a family of 4. Today we learned that with the recession stealing jobs, the number of Americans without health insurance now has climbed to nearly 51 million, 4.4 million more in just a year. And today, the rescue mission in Los Angeles told us they're seeing it. Tents set up for families in the back of their chapel.
This is one of those tents, and inside one of these, up to 4 people in one family will sleep here at night.
The number of tents has multiplied from a half dozen a year ago to nearly 60 today. And something else in the report today, more than a third of those in poverty are children. We could not forget that video, the high schoolers in California, the faces behind this new report.
We're like 4 months behind rent. And just having my brothers, they might be homeless pretty soon.
We have followed Chris Schultz since that video. His father was out of work, his mother a teacher's assistant, barely making the rent. And their refrigerator?
It's pretty slim, right?
Yeah, we usually have butter, but we don't have butter this time, so. I eat lunch at school, and I guess that's another reason why I like going to school, because, I get food at school and stuff, so. What can you do, right?
Keeps you going.
Yeah, keeps me going, and then pushing to my refrigerator, No, that's empty right there.
There's nothing in the freezer.
Nothing in the freezer at all, nothing.
Today we learned his father is still looking for work. Chris is now in the Army, learning mechanical skills to bring home, and waiting his little brother.
Is your big brother?
Yeah.
Do you love him?
Yeah.
After a storm, the sun comes out,
The sun comes out?
Yeah, the sun always comes out, no matter what.
From the deserts of California to the streets of D.C., poverty is rarely far away in America.
Hey! Come on, Eric Dwayne.
Brenda Weaver never thought she'd be poor, but after her daughter died from an asthma attack, she and her husband were left to raise 3 grandkids.
Don't want to have to depend on people, because I've always worked and since I was 15.
Good job.
Perfect.
In Yucca Valley, California, Bonnie Hughes lost her teaching job just as Matthew's hours were cut back. Now they're losing their home, their car, their insurance, and struggling to feed their 3 kids.
We got to feed the kids, we got to pay the bills. What is more important? And the bill collectors were calling.
The Hughes and Weavers are hardly alone. This week, the Census Bureau reported that 46.2 million Americans lived below the poverty line last year. That's $23,314 for a family of 4. 22% of children are now living in poverty, 22%. Among Hispanic kids, it's 37%, and 40% of African American children are living in poverty.
Our nation has aroused the hopes of the poor.
It was 50 years ago that Sergeant Shriver led President Johnson's war on poverty. Today, his son Mark runs Save the Children in the U.S.
It means not having enough food to eat every week. It means going to food pantries. It means going to the church and begging for food at times.
We made $42 too much to get on food stamps.
For the Hughes and the Weavers,
with everything happening, the wash machine broke and the roof need to be fixed.
And another 46 million Americans, many with children. It is life on the edge.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Those kids can be raised out of poverty if we had a national commitment to do it.
12-year-old Crystal Montez comes to this Compton school 5 days a week for a free lunch.
Here you go, enjoy your meal.
Served by the nonprofit Los Angeles Regional Food Bank to children in this neighborhood where 90% come from families with incomes below the poverty line. $23,350 a year for a family of 4.
When my uncle's busy and my mom's at work, we come to lunch, so that way we won't be hungry a lot.
These children are the faces of the growing trend. Based on markers such as infant mortality and teen births, the study found child poverty rose in 38 states between 2000 and 2009. Where poverty hits children hardest, 1 in 4 children and more, a wide arc of states mostly across the American South. The recession has made matters much worse, affecting kids like 14-year-old Jose Gallardo and his 6 siblings. His parents?
Sometimes they don't have that much work. We don't have a lot of money, and sometimes not enough money to pay the rent.
Nevada has the highest percentage of children whose parents are under or unemployed. Here, 13%, along with their parents, have been kicked out of houses because of foreclosures. This survey only runs through 2009, before many recession-racked states started cutting their budgets, many making deep cuts to programs for the poor, which means child poverty has likely gotten worse. Children who grow up in poverty are more likely to be unemployed adults. Still, poverty hasn't dimmed Jose Gallardo's dreams for the future.
I hope it really works out. I want to be a FBI agent. I would help my family get a better place.
Here you go.
Meanwhile, this LA food program keeps growing. They served 3,000 children a day last year. This year, it's grown to 3,500 a day.
Millions of young people grow up in the sunlight of opportunity. But that is another America. And this other America has a daily ugliness about it that transforms the buoyancy of hope into the fatigue of despair. In this other America, millions of people find themselves walking the streets in search for jobs that do not exist. In this other America, millions of people are forced to live in dilapidated, substandard housing conditions where they do not have wall-to-wall carpet, where they all too often have wall-to-wall rats and roaches. In this other America, we find some 40 million of our brothers and sisters perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. And I need not pause to give the figures. They are before us every day. Now, unemployment is not the only problem. Underemployment is just as great or even greater. For most of the poverty-stricken people in our country are working every day. They are making wages so inadequate that they cannot begin to function in the mainstream of the economic life of the nation. They are working, in many instances, full-time jobs for part-time income. Now, because of this, somehow we must find the causal basis. It is just as necessary for people of goodwill and concern to vigorously condemn the intolerable conditions that continue to exist in our society.